possible. So if we are going over time, I might have to just do a quick summary, and then I'll give you guys my, not sure why it's showing up. I'll give you guys my email contact just in case you have further questions after the AMA. Okay, so let's start. So who am I? As you know, I'm an alumni from UOG. I started at UOG in spring 2014. I was actually from the Philippines and flew to Guam like 2 days after my high school graduation. And I started like all the way down from Math 085. And I graduated fall 2018, so it took me like 5 years to graduate college. But during that time, I was in EMC² as I was a public relations in 2017, I think. And then, sorry, I don't know why. Yeah, public relations in 2017, and then treasurer in 2018. I was also a member of Free Code Camp Guam. It's like an external art organization where we teach the community basic concepts of computer science and coding. And then while I was in school, I was an intern for a bunch of places. Notably, I was an intern for Xerox, and I was also a TA and a math tutor for UOG. I believe my boss is here too in the call. Hi, boss. And I was also I also had a brief stint at Sylvan, where I tutored students in computer science and math. And then finally, like the summer before I graduated, I was in a research experience. It's what you call an REU. It's like a slash. It's a software engineering / research opportunity at Temple University. It's the big red T you see over here in the intern bracket. So that was, I'd say that was my only software engineering internship. And it was mostly a research internship too. It's not like a full-on software engineering internship. And then finally, I started my career at Visa a year ago after a 5-month grueling job search. And I actually I wasn't planning to move overseas. I wanted to stay in Guam for a year or two. But I was trying to find local opportunities, but I had no luck at that time. So yeah, Visa entered the picture when I found their job listing online. So I started at Visa on June 10th, 2019, so a little over a year ago. So just a quick run through what Visa is. We're a financial services fintech company. We are headquartered in Foster City, California. That's where I live, although right now I'm working from home in Guam, actually. We facilitate electronic fund transfers using a Visa branded credit card and prepaid cards. So we do not issue credit. I think this is like a common misconception. So let's say you usually apply for a credit card at a bank or a credit union, right? Like Coast 360. But you wouldn't apply for a credit card at Visa, because Visa just provides these banks and credit unions the ability to use our technology, so all the fund transfer, all the transactions are possible. And the main network that Visa uses, called VisaNet, processed 100 billion transactions during 2014. So that's worth $6.8 trillion. So that means even an hour of a downtime from VisaNet could have really hefty consequences for entire economies. Oh, by the way, so the way Visa makes money is through transactions. So for each transaction, we have a percentage that we get through the merchant side. That's why you guys will notice some stores have minimum prices you have to spend before you could use a credit card. So what do I do at Visa? I'm in a team comprised of 9 people. So we're led by chief systems architect. We also have a manager. And then we have a couple senior software engineers, and then there's 6 of us software engineers. And I'm in the Open VisaNet team, where we're sort of like building the next generation of VisaNet, the current network that allows fund transfers to happen. So on a day-to-day basis, so see that cubicle over there on the upper left corner? That's my cubicle. Haven't seen that for, I think, almost 8 months now. but usually in a day, I spend 3 hours programming. So I'm just sitting there and just trying to finish problems that our team has. And then probably like 2 hours I spend coming up with designs for features and reviewing people's code, like my teammates' code through code reviews, and then a bunch of meetings for the rest of the day. We also have like a ton of team and department activities, as you can see here. So when I started at Visa, I was in the new grad program, which means there was like a special program for new grad software engineers where you're placed in the cohort of people. Um, so the people you see in the picture I'm with, those are in the same new grad cohort as I was. So we kind of like grew close together because we were all college graduates who started at the same time. And some things you'll notice, since Visa is like well, at least the Visa location where I was is in the Bay Area, like the Silicon Valley area. They they try to attract young talent through all these, I guess, cool stuff like ice cream socials, like foosball tables, and like concert tickets. Other things I do is I coach interns we may have at times. So those guys you see by the foosball table were actually interns a year ago, last summer. So how did I get here? The way I like to think about it is like in with like 3 sections of like the past 4 or 5 years of my life where like, that outlines how this happens. So the first one was pretty much my undergrad where I was building credentials. The second one was the job hunt, and the last one was the interview. So let's start with the first section of building credentials, aka the long game, because ideally you want to start this as soon as possible. So uh, if you're an aspiring software engineer, your priority, well, this is my from my observation and what like my other colleagues have seen. Um, Recruiters really put a lot of emphasis on experience and internships. Second to that are projects that you do. I think this is because they want to see that you could start and finish a project. And then lastly, they want to see that I think grades are the least um, thing that they want to see on your. It's still important for internships, but it's not as important to them compared to experience in projects. Um, Pretty much, I'd say just try to keep your GPA above 3.0 and try to get as much experience in projects as possible. Of course, if you want a career in research or IT, you'll probably have different priorities. So for research, like if you want to go into artificial intelligence or machine learning, you want to focus on your GPA because you want to get into grad school. If you're IT, you probably focus on certifications. Okay, so during your undergrad, make sure to focus on your CS fundamentals. Like know which algorithm to use and data structures to use, and know their runtimes and space complexities. Uh, that's why it's really important to try to learn as much as possible in your data structures and algorithms class. Also try to have language proficiency, like know a language from inside and out. And during this time, like I said earlier, you wanna build projects so you can build a portfolio. And while you're building projects, it's important that you learn how to use Git. Git is a version control software that allows you to save your code and collaborate with people. And it allows you to save your code in versions. Not knowing Git as a software engineer is like not knowing how to save your code that you just wrote. And you want to learn how to use an IDE for that language and probably experiment with other technologies like Docker and AWS. And of course, this thing here is really important, the terminal. Make sure you start learning how to use the terminal. It's a long journey. There's always something to learn even after you graduate. And when you're done with your project, by the way, it could also be a school project. It could be a course project. That's fine. You could push it to GitHub, where you could compile your code and your projects, and people could look at it. And this is how GitHub looks like. These were my contributions in 2017 when I still had time to do my own projects. And then let's say you have your CS fundamentals down and you've done some projects, you want to start preparing for internships. So ideally, let's say it's like a spring semester. You want to start in January, preparing for the interview, as in practicing coding interviews. And on February, you want to start making your resume and applying for internships. And then finally, from March to May, the interviews. So for internship preparation, um, there's two things you need. You need to know your computer science fundamentals and concepts, and that's what this book is for. On the left that you see here, it's called Cracking the Coding Interview. You're not supposed to read the whole thing like from front to back. I don't know anyone who does that actually. You probably won't learn much, but it's sort of like your reference. So you're gonna go on the, if you have like a data structure or algorithm you forgot like how it works, just go to the table of contents and go to that page and just read it as a refresher. You're not expected to read it front to back. And then finally, lead code. Lead code provides you a lot of problems to practice coding interviews. So it gives you a problem and then you try to solve it using your choice of language. And try to solve one every other day when you're preparing. So I'd say if you're gonna have a heavy course load, try to place that for the fall semester. So spring semester would be lighter than usual so you can prepare for internship interviews. And then this is your intern resume. You want to place education at the top because you're still a student. If you have like a GPA greater than 3.0, you should definitely list it. And like Dean's List, awards, President's List. You're not expected to have much experience, so you can just list like a summer job you had when you were a freshman or a sophomore. And the projects that you did, skills and technologies, and try to keep it at one page only. So this is how internship ads look like. So you could see that, yeah, of course they have the intern keyword and they usually have the year and the that they're hiring for. I just want to state, because this is like a common misconception in this island, that you won't be, like companies wouldn't provide you like travel stipends and housing during an internship. From my experience, they most of the time they're able to do that, especially if they're the bigger companies. So like some amounts I've seen for travel stipends is like $1,500 to $3,000. A lot of times they also just pay for your flights straight up, like round trip flights. Sometimes they reimburse it. Sometimes they also, for housing, they give you free housing or a monthly housing allowance. It could also be none. Like this is common for like really small companies who can't afford it. But usually they should be able to if they're a medium to large size companies. But yeah, these depend on the companies. The average hourly wage for interns, at least in the Bay Area, is $41.50, and this is from Glassdoor. And also check out local opportunities as well. I've had a lot of internships when I was in college here in Guam. Like Docomo, I think Docomo Pacific does software. I'm not completely sure though. And then the internship interview. Usually there's 3 rounds to this. The first one is the recruiter phone call. You want to look into the company beforehand so you know what the company's about. This is just gonna make sure that you look professional to the interviewer and you actually know what you're applying to. You probably want to ask about the day-to-day tasks and the work-life balance. And I highlighted the relocation package here. You should ask about it. So let's say if they don't provide enough relocation package for you to travel there, then that's your call to just end the whole thing. So you don't waste any more of your time with the interviews. And then the second round is the technical interview. This is when they give you a problem to solve. And usually you have like 45 minutes for each problem to outline the idea you have and then code it up. It's important to think out loud while solving. And yeah, feel free to ask questions you may have when you're finished solving the problem. And then the final interview is usually a behavioral interview with your future manager, but can also be a technical interview. Most of the time for intern internships, the final interview is video call, but it could also be on site, and yeah, most of the time they'll fly you in using like they'll pay for your flights. Try to get at least one software engineer internship under your belt. It's gonna make it much easier for your future job hunt. The more, the easier. And then the job hunt. If the company likes your performance during an internship, they will provide you. Uh, Sometimes they'll provide you a return offer, and this means you won't have to do the job hunt at all if you accept it. It's usually given like a month or two after the internship, or sometimes even right after the program ends. And if you accept the return offer, think twice about accepting it and then reneging, because that will probably mean the company might blacklist you, and it's going to be hard for you to work at that company again. And then this is the industry resume. So by now you should have all your experiences fleshed out, maybe like one or two internships, and you're about to graduate, right? Maybe you have expected Latin honors, or you already graduated. So make sure you list that. And yeah, it's pretty much. Oh, also make a LinkedIn account. It's really useful because recruiters contact you there a lot. And put your GitHub link on the header. So job applications, you usually have new grad job applications and junior applications. From my experience, if you apply for the new grad applications, they usually have a dedicated pipeline for new grads, so they could train you more intensively compared to like if you apply for a junior job role. It's going to be competitive at tech hubs like the Bay Area, New York City, Seattle, and Austin. Check for local opportunities. When I was applying for jobs, I was trying to check for local opportunities, and I found two, but they rejected me after the interview. And finally, just the average base pay for the in the Bay Area for software engineers. And then let's say the interview goes well, they'll probably they'll tell you the salary you'll get, the relocation package, the signing bonus. I've seen crazy numbers for this from 10K to 70K, depending on the company, stocks and other perks. And you could, on referrals, they're really useful because it pushes your resume to the top of the stack. Companies usually have an online form where employees could enter the referral. And sometimes employees can even get rewards if the person they referred gets an offer. So definitely take advantage on referrals. And I'm open to referring anyone. I'll provide my contact info. Just send me your resume and your experiences, and then we'll go from there. So Nate's telling me to end now and start the Q&A. The interview section is pretty much the same. I'm just gonna wrap this up real quick. It's the same thing as the intern preparation for the interview. Just need to study harder because the full-time job interviews are going to be harder. There's 4 rounds for full-time job interviews. Yeah, so just summary, focus on getting experience in building projects and preferably a high GPA. But yeah, GPA is the lowest priority, at least for software engineers. Prepare early and practice hard for internship interviews, and take advantage of return offers and referrals, and practice hard for job interviews. Don't be discouraged because of where you're from. I work with like all people, like some people from Stanford, from Berkeley, and some people from relatively unknown universities, and it doesn't really matter, at least for the software engineering fields. And that's it. Some links and resources.
All right, thank you, Gabe. So this time we can just take the questions. If you guys have a question, just go ahead and use the raise hand feature on the Zoom, and then we'll get to you.
Sorry, guys. I think I really loaded up this presentation, so I was just rushing the whole time.
Yeah, and also if you guys don't get to ask a question, or you're just kind of shy a little bit, Gabe can also you can message him individually so you can answer any questions that you have.
Yes, feel free. You can message me on LinkedIn or my email here. Any questions, guys?
Let's see. All right. I'll ask a question first. So, Gabe, would you say that your classes within CS helped you, even if a little bit, prepared for your job as it is?
Definitely. Some of them, in terms of software engineer careers, didn't really contribute much to my ability to pass interviews and perform well on the job. Some classes notably would be data structures and algorithms, programming 1 and 2, and yeah, those classes are really important. Does that answer your question, Nate?
Yeah, that helps me out actually a little bit. And also, I think it's good for the people who are just doing 303, 202. So
Yeah,
if you,
but like make sure you yeah, just try hard and learn as much as possible. Even though it's sort of unrelated to software engineering, it'll still help build your knowledge.
does anyone else have any questions? You guys are feel free to. You can guys can just talk now if you want to ask questions.
But when I posted links here, in case you guys, these are like top 75 lead code questions to save your time, so you know which questions get asked the most by interviewers and cracking the coding interview. I posted the Amazon link, but you might find the PDF somewhere, most likely, and a Reddit CS career question subreddit.
Gabe, you have a question in the chat.
Oh, my bad. Not sure how this works. Haven't.
Here, I'll ask you to. So if someone were starting to get into coding, what would you suggest as a first language?
A first language, I'd say Python. It's really easy to learn the fundamentals with Python because it looks almost like English because of its simplicity. You don't have to use brackets. And honestly, for interviews, Python's the best language to use. I still use Python for interviews to this day. And like most people I know, still use Python for interviews because it's just faster, right? When you're on an interview and there's a time limit.
Christian, does that answer you? And does that fulfill?
Yeah, I can't access the chat. Yeah, I haven't. This is actually my first time using Zoom. My company uses Teams a lot.
Um, I here's another question. Do you think that attending UOG helped you? And what was your most important takeaway from UOG?
Attending UOG definitely helped me, but I had to do my own work outside of UOG to supplement that. It's just the thing about software engineering is like they place a heavy importance on experience in projects. They like most companies don't even ask for your transcripts. Visa didn't ask for my transcript when I applied. Um, Neither does Google, Facebook, Amazon, or like Apple, even Netflix or Spotify. Like none of those companies ask for your transcripts, as far as I know. What they're really interested about is our projects and internships. So yeah, classes are important to build your fundamentals, but you have to sort of work outside that through projects so you can apply that knowledge. Because like it's not just UOG that the CS curriculum in America doesn't place a heavy importance on projects and hands-on experience. It's usually on theory, right? So if you want to get into software engineering, you should have a lot of hands-on experience through projects. Of course, it's different if you want to get into research or something. Research, you definitely should do well in class.
Here's a question from May. How's the work life during COVID-19 and the pandemic?
Work-life balance, I actually prefer it. I've noticed I'm more productive working from home. The only thing that's missing and it's kind of sad is the socialization aspect. But yeah, when we're back to normal and like I could actually hang out with friends, and I think that'll be a perfect setup for me at least. I know that it's harder for people who have children though, because they're performing two roles at the same time. Like they're working and having to take care of their children at their homes. So it's a challenge for people who need isolated space.
Um, okay, here's one from Brandon. Have companies you applied to before limited what languages you were able to use during interviews? Because two interviews that he had with Seattle-based companies,
Mhm.
the languages he was allowed to use was limited.
Okay, so in terms of limiting languages during interviews, I haven't experienced that. I do have one friend I heard when he applied for a company in the DC area, they only wanted him to use C++. But from my experience and other people's experience, I um, haven't really seen that. Uh, do you mind telling me which companies these are? Actually, no, never mind. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. And then,
But yeah, we could talk, Brandon, if you have more questions. Yeah, that's really surprising. I'm sorry about that.
okay. And then another question from Danica. What kind of projects do you recommend on working on?
With projects, honestly, when I started working on projects, I didn't think hard about what project to do because I didn't know what. Because software engineer is still a big field, like in and of itself. You could do a lot of projects. So just the first thing that pops into your mind, really, or like you could Google like a list of projects you could do as a first timer, and then just attack the first one that interests you. Don't worry about if is it does it use the latest technologies or something. You should just keep doing projects that interest you, and then eventually you'll gravitate towards what you really want.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Uh, oh, sorry. One second. He has another question.
Mhm.
Oh, here's one from Robert. What exactly do you search for when looking for a project to do?
I say, let's say, so related to this, the person who asked me earlier, first language is good to learn. So I answered Python. So let's say I'm working on Python at the moment. I would just Google great Python projects for first timers or something, a search term like that. And then, so that's based on my current skill, right? That's what I know at the moment. And I just go from there. And then eventually, once I start doing more and more projects, I it comes naturally. You'll gravitate towards something because as you work on projects, you'll learn more technologies. And then through those technologies, you'll realize, oh, there's another interesting project I could learn with this new thing I just learned. And then it'll just become like a normal thing that you do. You'll know which next project you want to do once you start. So the important thing is just pick something. Just start now.
Okay. And then going off of the projects, you know how like with the CS program we have different projects within the classes, and some
Right.
people, for the most part, it's been like you just kind of do the project and get it graded. Do you think is it worth it to work harder on the projects, or just kind of go with the try to get the good grade with minimal effort?
Uh, yeah. So this is the kind of okay. um, so if it's a type of class where they like the professor lets you pick a project to work on, pick a project that you know will help you learn a lot and you actually want to work on. If you end up working on a project that's not as productive in your own opinion to what your goals are, then that's really up to you to prioritize, right? For me, if I had an outside project, I'll probably put more time on that if it's going to help me um, towards my future goals better.
Okay. So it's 4 o'clock. Those who have class at 4, thank you for coming. If you guys still want to stick around and ask Gabe questions, you can. But I don't want to keep everyone here for those who are have class or some obligation. So just email Gabe for those who are leaving if you want more questions or more answers to your questions. But those who are here, yeah, you guys can stay. Oh, Gabe, Robert says, "Bye, Gabe. Thanks for a great presentation." And so everyone
Robert,
else
I
is
miss
saying,
him.
yeah. So everyone's saying thank you, Gabe. And yeah, so thank you, Gabe, for this presentation. It's really informative.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I had to rush it a bit. I unintentionally put too much information.
So the presentation, I recorded it all. We'll go ahead and send the link, a YouTube link later on. Oh, sorry, I'm talking.
Okay, that sounds good. But yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. And yeah, if anyone actually wants to chat for a bit, I could probably stay. I could stay for a bit, probably until like 4:15, 4:30. But if not, I'll drop off, and then like you guys can contact me on my email or LinkedIn.
Thank you, everybody. Jose, like Regina said, we can give you the recording. We can send that to you so you can catch up on what Gabe talked about. Okay, so if it, oh, I'm the host now.